Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Farmer here with the Wrestling Chatter, and we have an incredible interview lined up here for you with Marcus Buff Bagwell, famously from the NWO, WCW. We talk about all sorts of stuff like becoming a toy, his Dark Side of the Ring interview, and so much more after that happened. It's a really fun interview, an insightful interview, an inspirational one as well. Check it out now. Share it with your friends, by the way, but this one's a good one. Check it out. Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Chatter. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by someone I'm very excited to chat with today, a man known as Marcus Alexander Buff Bagwell. Mark,
Hey.
thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, usually I try not to go to fan in these kind of conversations, but I've got to be honest with you right up the front. You're one of my favorites. I was a big fan of you. In fact, I am in this March Madness bracket we do every year, this tournament. I have named myself Vicious and Delicious for almost 25 years now. And this is the big thing. I got to confess something here. Every year for about 25 years, I've been telling myself I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to be Buff Bagwell for Halloween. And I always chicken out because I don't have the arms, Buff. I just can't do it. I can't do a Buff Bagwell with my sleeves. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I got to do some curls. I got to get there. But one of these days.
Well, to answer a couple of those things. One, Vicious and Delicious was without a shadow of a doubt the coolest tag team name in the history of pro wrestling. That tag team, I'm a 5-time world tag team champion with 4 different dudes, and Norton wasn't one of them. It's crazy. But
yeah,
if I would, what people don't realize is I broke my neck as a Vicious and Delicious match. Vicious and Delicious was against Lex Luger and Rick Steiner when I broke my neck. So 10 months later, after breaking my neck, my match when I came back, Norton was in Japan and Scotty was there. So they put me and Scotty together, and that worked really well too. So Vicious and Delicious got lost with the broke neck injury. But man, that would have been, it was definitely the best tag team name ever. And as far as the Halloween thing goes, one year, me and my ex-wife, she dressed up like me, and I dressed up like her. So I had a wig and makeup, and I didn't need boob job because I didn't need boobs. I had my chest. I had big boobs anyway. So I had those little halter tops. I had the thigh high boots, all that. She put a muscle suit on under a shirt and went as me with a little black wig on. So next year, just get the muscles and put a shirt over it.
Well, speaking of the muscles, this is something I've always wondered about you. And speaking of arms, you've got that tattoo on the arm there. When you got that, is there a meaning behind the tattoo, or is that just something you thought looked cool? Because I know you have it on the wrist now as well.
Yeah, I do. So the tattoo, for starters, what people don't realize is when I got this tattoo, tattoos was they were still like athletes didn't do a whole lot of those yet. That was a biker thing, a little bit trashy feeling. This is 1993-4 area. I mean, I got in trouble for it, but the reason I did it was I feel like the Ultimate Warrior, if you remember, he tied bands right here, shoestrings.
Yeah.
And the reason why, and nobody's ever probably asked him this when he was alive, but it makes your arm look so much bigger.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Warrior didn't need any help, but he still looks so good. Why not look even better than he looked? And he did. So I got that. So at a very young age, I copied that and did it as Fabian. So 1991, before I joined WCW, as an independent wrestler, I had shoestrings tied around here. So fast forward, the movie but with wrestling, I didn't do it as Fabian. I did it, but a Handsome Stranger, I don't think I had anything here. And then wrestling starts, WCW starts. And I get in a movie called Day of the Warrior. And in the movie, I came up with the idea because I was an Indian in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I had these leather weaved bands that tied around my arms, both arms.
Yeah.
And it, it dangled like the shoestrings did. And it just makes your body look so much better. It's crazy. So from that weaved leather band is where I decided, and I almost did both arms, but I thought that was too much. So I just did one leather band on the back of my arm. So that's a leather band that's tied in a knot right here, and then it dangles down.
So it's kind of a shout out, not only to makes the arm look bigger, but shout out to your acting time as well.
Absolutely. That came from the Day of the Warrior movie.
So look is very important, obviously, in pro wrestling. And this is something I wonder about a lot of wrestlers. And I want to ask you, a lot of people have their Mount Rushmores. I'm doing something different here. This is a hypothetical question for you, Mark. I want you to imagine there's a wax museum somewhere, and they say, Mark, we want to put a statue of you in our museum, but we got a problem. Mark, you've had a few different looks over the years. So I'm going to ask you, which look do you want to be in the wax museum? We've got the NWO look. We've got early NWO look. We've got the overalls look, and we've got the red hat look.
Yeah,
Mark,
man,
which one is going into the wax museum? They're making a statue of you.
I will tell you this: at the time that I decided to go with a head full of beautiful hair and cut it down to a Caesar cut. Man, it devastated people. I mean, my family was physically upset about it. My nieces and aunts cried about it. They were like, "Oh my God, what have you done? You cut your hair off." But as going for a bad guy, dude, it was the best bad guy haircut you could have. It was. I sported that cut for 20 years. And I only wrestled at NWO hair for 4 or 5 years only. So I sported that for 20 because several reasons. It looked good. It was easy to fix. You'd have to blow dry your hair or fix your hair, gel or nothing. You just wet your hair and you were done. So it was just a great haircut. It looked great. I felt like it looked good on me. But the top hat is so infamous, man. So it would really be the top hat in the overalls is one of my highest selling pictures.
Yes. So it is one of the highest selling pictures. Mark, I hate to tell you this. That's the wrong answer. The right answer is the one with the NWO choker. That's the one we want to see.
I know. The choker and the armband.
Yes. Speaking of, George, our producer here, he has a question for you regarding this exact look. George.
So I got a question because, of course, I'm a big fan. I've always been a fan, but I've also been a big fan of the action figure stuff. So I got one of these bad boys. Just kind of had it handy.
Does that have the this tights on it?
It's got the little brick. Yeah,
the brick. Yeah.
Oh, the brick tights with the best.
With the buff on the side.
Oh, yeah.
So aside from, how cool this action figure is, and, he scored a lot of W's in my little action figure federation.
Good.
But yeah, what's it like for you to kind of forever be immortalized in terms of an action figure? And even when you do autograph signings, are you still getting people coming up to you with signing the autographs on the action figure?
It's amazing. I'm like, and they come up in good shape. I'm like, where did you get this at? Because it's 25 years ago, bro. So they come up and they're unsigned, and I still sign a bunch of them. And I got a new one that just came out with Asylum, just came out with a new one. But going along with the tattoo, going into the action figure, I was devastated about doing this. I was really depressed. I first got in trouble. Ted Turner came to me and goes, "Bro, you can't do that without asking us." And I go, "Well, am I in trouble?" And they go, "No, but don't ever do something like that again without checking with us." And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, So it was a big deal. And I had Lex was drilling me like, what have you done? That's trashy, bro. And a tattoo, really? And I was down about it. And then I saw it on television and I went, that is the coolest looking thing I've ever seen. Yes. So when I saw it on TV, I was sold. But when I saw it on an action figure, I was really sold. Right, it's on there and it's done well. It's a really good tattoo. So I was like, yes. So I love it. I love the tattoo. I love the action figure. It makes me feel really big. And I remember not having an action figure yet, and a lot of guys did. And I was really down about it, man. And I was at the mall one day, and I saw my mom pull up. She knew where I kind of hung out. I was on my Harley, and she pulled up, and she had something behind her back walking up to the glass that I was eating at, and she went with an action figure. And I went, yes. Because nowadays, I hate to say this, but everybody's got an action figure. But back in those days, everybody didn't, and it was a big deal, So it was a real big deal to me. It's you get an action figure made after yourself in life, and I feel like you something right.
And I'm sure how proud your mom was too to kind of have it in her hands as well. I mean, I'm sure that meant the world to her.
Oh, absolutely. And there's an action figure out there. It's called Walking, Talking, or something like that. It's real big, and it is the best action figure I've ever seen in my life. And they only had about 6 or 8 guys. It was like me, Dallas, Goldberg, Nash, but my voice is in the action figure, and it's a big one. And I mean, my haircut, my earrings, my body looks like, it ain't like, how all the action figures kind of have a good body, and guys may not have a good body. This one is just, and I'm ripped and shredded, and underneath your pecs, it can talk to the other action figure. So they talk, and the mouth moves, and my voice is in the action figure. It's called Walking, Talking something, but it's the best action figure. Boots, tights, everything is perfect. Tattoo also.
Very cool. Well, George, thank you so much for bringing that. I got to get one of these action figures myself, but I want to talk to you about something that aired somewhat recently. They had a Dark Side of the Ring episode about you, and I want you to talk to me a little bit about how this came about and what was going through your head. I feel like there's obviously a level of flattery. You want to do a show about me, but also Dark Side of the Ring, obviously not necessarily a flattering show. How did this come about, and what was going through your head when this all started before the show even aired?
Great question. For me, it was a no-brainer. My whole life has been extremely transparent. I never hid my addiction. I never hid what I did for a living. I never tried to hide being a male escort for gigolos. I never tried to hide any of that. I just did what I did. I did the best I could do, and so it wasn't like I didn't even have to think about doing the show, because it was, I don't hide anything. Like you asked a minute ago, you asked before we started this show, hey, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, and I always say okay, but I've never ever been in an interview where I've said, hey man, I'd rather not talk about that, because I'm very honest, I'm very open, I'm very, very transparent with my life. So to me, it was a no-brainer. It was a chance for me to be able to add a few fans that may have questions about me being a gigolo, and why would he do that, and I said, a lot of people don't know I shot my father. I had a crazy life before wrestling. The Dark Side of the Ring episode, really, it's crazy before wrestling starts. Right. I had a pretty crazy life. And so, it was a no-brainer. I was excited about it. And then when I watched it and when it ended, I was ecstatic. I thought it was done phenomenally well. It really isn't a dark side episode. I mean, it's a good story. It's a pretty dark story, but it ends with rays of sunshine. So,
Yes.
I look good. I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm clean. I'm sober. But they really didn't want to talk about all that stuff. They didn't want Dallas nowhere on my episode because they didn't want him talking positive stuff.
Right.
They emphasized that they were going to tell the dark stuff, but they also guaranteed me that they would tell, it would end with, look at me, and hey, here I am, and I'm clean, I'm sober. So it was a no-brainer, and I was very excited to do the show. And they reached out to me, and I was thankful to do it.
Yeah, something that did stand out to me about your episode is, at the end, it was a very bright ending, a positive ending. And something that really flabbergasted me is that, as someone who's watched a lot of these dark side of the ring type shows, everyone on there had nothing but good things to say about you. And even people who you would think maybe wouldn't want, I'll put on it, I wouldn't want my exes to be on a show talking about me.
Go get both your and let me tell you what people don't know. I divorced both of those women. Mm-hmm. I divorced them, and they go on a show and say they still love me. That should show people that Mark Bagwell is a pretty good guy, man. Through all the rumors, wrap everything up you want to wrap up. You've got two different women that I married 15 years apart. I was married to one for 4, one for 18 years. They barely even know each other. They barely even hung out. They've talked on the phone and stuff. But here's two different women, one doing an interview for Dark Side of the Ring in South Atlanta, one doing on the North Side, different places, and both of them still love Mark Bagwell. What I'm trying to say from that is that's got to show people that may have they're on the fence with Mark Bagwell. They got to be like, man, that guy, wow, both of his wives said something good about him. And in that episode, they don't say, and Bagwell divorced both of them. They leave that, and I'm glad they didn't. But that is weird if you think about it. Well, they should have nothing but ill will toward me.
Right.
But they don't, because I'm a good guy, man.
Well, is that something, one of the questions I really wanted to get to about this is, early on in the show and really throughout the whole show, your parents are a big part of the show. And both of them, from what I can tell, very strong personalities, a lot of success. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned from either of them or both of them? Because I imagine they clearly shaped your life in a lot of ways. What's the biggest lesson you took away from either of them or both of them?
Man, both of them were spectacular. I mean, they just, from day one, they taught me life skills. Like when I would stay home from school, I learned about life, man. And it may sound silly, but I'm talking about from sinks not being turned off all the way, and how much money you're wasting if that water's dripping, your thermostat. I learned life skills that I was going to carry throughout the rest of my life, from doors that are left open with the AC on, you're wasting money, to it sounds crazy, but life skills. And the main life skill my father taught me was Murphy's Law. He taught me to go into every situation like it was going to mess up. And that is why I believe I'm one of the most successful pro wrestlers ever. And when I say successful, I mean, if you got every one of my matches, every one of them, man, there's a handful of mistakes, because I planned on Ric Flair messing up whatever he was going to do. Right. Now, if he didn't, that's great. But if he did, I was ready for it. And you take that over a 34-year career, and there's a bunch of things that you fixed along the way, and it goes unnoticed. But if I hadn't have been there, it would have definitely gone noticed that something happened. So at the end of a match, and I say I'm in there with Sting. At the end of the match, they don't say, "Hey, well, Bagwell messed up that spot." They say, "Oh, that was a bad match." So you're both in this dance together, and you're both working to make it come out completed. And man, I was good about coming out of those matches with them completed. There's only a handful that I look back at that I go, "Oh, ooh," or "Dadgummit." There's not many, man, because Murphy's Law. And my mother is just, what I learned from her was just, she would write notes on her hand out somewhere. I'm a real note-oriented person. Everything that goes in my brain goes down on paper, and then I put them on sticky pads to do my daily events, and I get so much done. And I'm very goal-oriented because of my mother. They were a great team to equal out a good kids, and all three of their kids ended up being really good kids. My older brothers both should have been pro athletes, but when your parents are rich, they just didn't want to go. They didn't want to go be a freshman. My brother had a full ride at Tennessee. He went for a week and came home because there he's a freshman.
Right.
Second string on the football team. In Marietta, Georgia, he's a millionaire.
Right.
So which one are you going to do? I mean, to have a do-over, you're like, Tennessee. But it's easy to say now. But when you're there, man, you know, you're the freshman, you're getting beat up on, and you're the punk again. And my brother was a badass, and he didn't like that. So, and my middle brother, same thing. He tried out for the Braves. It was a 3-day tryout. He made it through the first 2 cuts, and then he didn't go to the third one. He went drag racing with my father. But all those things, if they had to do over and my parents wasn't millionaires, they would have followed through with that. They both should have been pro athletes. And I wasn't near as good at football or baseball as they were, but I still think I would have gone to college and played college ball and maybe had a little go at baseball at AAA or something. But wrestling happened for me, and they at 18, my parents went broke. So my brothers had already been working there 6 years. You know, they had built houses and had children, and we were going to be the Bagwells, Rich, and Marietta for the rest of our lives. And that all came to a halt in 1988.
Now, when you got, I think the biggest thing that obviously happened for you in pro wrestling was you joined the NWO.
Yes.
And obviously things changed for you there, but you were in a lot of tag teams, as you mentioned before. You were tagging with Scotty Riggs right before you joined the NWO. Obviously, you get the opportunity to join the NWO. You join the NWO. Who says no to that? But was there a part of you that had a little bit of guilt leaving behind Scotty Riggs, who wasn't joining the NWO? Was it just like, that's business? What was the mental side of leaving your tag team partner from the real life locker room side of that? Because clearly that's a huge difference for you both career wise in that moment.
Yeah, that's a great question. At the time, I remember it was such a big deal getting asked to be in the NWO. It was not even an issue, not even a glimpse of feeling bad. I think later in life, when the NWO really panned out and the flock didn't, that's when I had some of those feelings of regret, or not regret, of just feeling bad that I did that, but it was nothing I did. It was something that roles reversed. I would have treated Scotty the exact same way, with all my blessings. Please beat me up. Let me get you over. This is your next move. Scotty was great about that. Me and Scotty are still great friends to this day, as everybody knows. And what a walk he's had in his life. He's working for AEW now and doing well. And so, no, the answer is we were too good of friends for that to happen. But Scotty knows more about this than I do, of course, but he actually was the one that was supposed to be asked at first. They
Really?
wanted me to be team WCW.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind how I did not get on the episode of Who Killed WCW when I was there the entire time. I have no idea, but I wasn't. And I'm pissed off about it. But The Rock wasn't even in our company.
Right, right.
I mean, I'm lost. Goldberg was there for 3 years. I was there for 11.
Well, there's something about that I definitely wanted to talk to you about. That's a follow-up question I want to put a pin in.
But to finish up about Scotty, he was fantastic about that. He helped and said, "Hey, whatever it takes," and we did it. We didn't miss a beat as friends, not one beat.
With Scotty Riggs, one of the most powerful things in the dark side, and this will be the last thing on the dark side of the ring video or show, is Scotty Riggs at the end talking about you helping him to get to DDP to help turn his life around and how instrumental you were. What's it like on your, at the end of the day, I'm trying to find a way to word this, but how, I guess, motivational you were, inspirational you were to him. Do you feel like an inspirational person? Do you feel like a motivational person?
Absolutely.
Is that, how does it feel to know that people do look to you as a inspiration and a motivation? Does it feel like a responsibility, a weight? Is it something you take pride in? What's it like being an inspiration to somebody?
I think it's fantastic, and I love being an inspiration to somebody. For 20 years, I was not an inspiration. For 20 years, I was something you would look at and say, don't be this person. I was mad for 20 years. I was upset and mad for 20 years, and I sedated myself because of it. And then finally, I injure myself in that car wreck. And when I injured myself in that car wreck in 2020, my addiction finally did something that made me mad. And I hurt myself, and I was mad at leaving I left a dent. This time I was not coming out of this with a couple of stitches and put your teeth back in, and the tan will cover the scar up. I couldn't cover this one. I'm going to limp for the rest of my life because of my addiction. And I'm not mad about that. I'm happy because that got me sober. To be an inspiration, I love it. Even a few minutes ago, I know somebody that's going through some addiction right now, and they've been a couple months clean. And I said, I'm proud of you. And when I said it, I went, I've never said that in my life. Not about addiction. And the person knew it. And she goes, well, how does that feel to be on that side? I go, I almost cried. I said, I got a little teary-eyed. I said, so congratulations. I'm proud of you for being 2 months sober. And I'm 2 years sober as of this past 27th of August. So just a great place to be in. I love the story of Scotty. I mean, man, I was broke when I first started talking to him, and I paid $500 to get tires on his car. I don't even know why I did it, but something about my life had changed and was changing. I just didn't realize it, and it was changing for the better. And so I got his tires, and I got him up here, and I didn't know how bad a shape he was in. I mean, he didn't have a tooth in his head, and he didn't have nothing going on in his life, and he was going to kill himself. And I had no idea about any of that. So the transformation that took place was absolutely incredible, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
So there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about that's going really well for you right now. Before we get there, I have one last thing before we wrap up. I want to be sensitive to your time. There's something I'm a little bit upset about, Mark, and I'm going to be upset for you here because you're a very positive person. I look at the WWE video games, wrestling video games across the board, and I always say there's the IKEA version of Buff Bagwell in there because they've got the taunts, they've got the hat. Yeah, I can build a Buff Bagwell, but Buff Bagwell is not in the game. I'm upset about this. Why aren't you in the game? why aren't they inviting you to these special WWE Raws or AEW Dynamites to be as a guest? What do we got to do to get Buff Bagwell back on national television and in my video game properly?
Man, nobody has ever worded what you just said better. The answer, first let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what I think happened. So to answer the question of what originally happened on me being released, surely at this junction, everybody knows it was not over having a bad match. That's crazy.
I don't want to interrupt real quick, but just so you know, I was there in Tacoma that night.
What?
I was there live. I told you I'm a big fan. I lived in Tacoma, Washington. I was there that night. I was a big WCW fan. I was so pumped to see WCW that night. So just so you know, I was there that night and I was cheering for you. And I was very disappointed you got thrown outside, by the way, during that day. I was upset about what happened.
The whole catch, if you totally remember or not, but
yeah.
The next week was Atlanta, Georgia. So why did we even do that match in Tacoma? That was the question me and Booker had, but we weren't going to ask it. We were backstage talking like this, you know, hey, brother, why are we doing this? What's going on? But we weren't about to let somebody hear us. We just knew it couldn't be good that we're doing the invasion match 1 week before Atlanta. Why not? You put Booker T and Buff Bagwell in Atlanta, Georgia at State Farm Arena now, or at the Georgia Dome, or somewhere in Atlanta, and it's going to be a totally different outcome, brother. But I think they didn't want that outcome. So I don't really know what happened in the beginning. I can only tell you what happened after. So surely at this junction, everybody knows I didn't get fired over a bad match and my mother calling. Because that was never told to me. That's what I read and heard happened. I was told I was released and we would bring you back in 3 months. And I believed them. And in 3 months, when I called back, they act like they didn't know who I was, and it was over. Now, what takes place in October of 2001 for the next, let's just say 15 years, I've got no idea how Buff Bagwell don't get a second chance. I don't know, brother. I don't know. I do not know. Then you go, why wouldn't he get a second chance over the last 20 years? In 2020, in 2022, Dallas went to the WWE and said, hey, Bagwell's going to rehab. Will you guys sport the bill? And they said no. So my own insurance paid for it. But again, I don't know what I could have done in the 1 month I was there to make them this angry. In 2015, Conrad Thompson, I heard a podcast with him and Kurt Angle. I don't think Bischoff was with Conrad at this time. And Conrad said, I was just kind of barely listening somewhere. I was with somebody or something, and I heard Conrad go, what could Buff Bagwell have possibly done so bad to not get a second chance? Of course, I wanted to hear that 14 years ago, but I didn't. But I called Conrad directly up and I go, what made you say that? He goes, because it just blows my mind that you didn't get a second chance. He's a big Buff fan. And keep in mind, Buff saying, where's my second chance? Who cares? But now another person saying it. What did I do so bad, dude, to be outcasted over a few weeks? How do you go main event Monday Night Raw, and in 7 days you get released, and then here it's for a bad match and your mother called? What does that even mean? It means to me that people, society, believed what they said, and that makes me upset with society because surely they know you don't get fired over your mother calling. Even the first 5 years of this rumor,
Yeah.
I defended my mother calling. The
Mhm.
next 10 years, I said, so what if she did?
Right.
Who cares? The
Right.
first 5 years of the bad match, I defended it wasn't a bad match. The next 10 years, I said, who cares? Who gets fired over a bad match? But
Right.
that's the story that went. But in that, what I think happened, there was a time that a lawyer contacted me. And it was something, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was a big lawsuit that they were going to owe me a bunch of money. And it was, I mean, man, it was like 80 something thousand a week or something. It was crazy. And,
Yeah.
and I'm in the middle of this thing. You know, I feel like I've been done wrong by them. So of course I'm doing the lawsuit. And
Right.
so at the end, though, it came down to a technicality. It came down to I did an interview somewhere where I said the lawyer contacted me,
Mhm.
and that can't happen that way. The technicality is a lawyer cannot reach out to you in some shape, form, or fashion. It was done wrong. So
Yeah.
I had to sign these papers saying they never owe me anything again. They don't got to pay me. I have never, I can't say never,
Right.
very few monies have I've ever, what do you call the checks that come in?
Residuals? Royalties?
Very, very few,
Yeah.
a handful of residual checks I received from WCW, I'm from WWF and WWE. Very, very few. Nothing ranging over $500 ever. And I mean, a total of 500. And them making millions I was looking at. But then when I signed those papers, nothing at all. But I would give my right arm to be under the umbrella of the WWE. I want to be part of something again.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. Whatever it is I did, I'm sorry. Let me fix it. Like I said, even in the beginning, I was hoping, I knew I was taking too many pills and drinking too much, but I wasn't doing anything else wrong. So I was assuming that I would get before any kind of trouble went down.
Right.
And I was wrong. I got hung, and for not a good reason. So I don't know what happened, man. I don't know, except the lawsuit kind of put the nail in the coffin. But we were way off track way before that lawsuit. That was 2012 area. That was 12 years after the invasion stuff. So whatever it is, I'm sorry. I worship the WWF. I worship the WWE. It was they were number one in every category. I'd give anything to be on those video games. Forget financial. I'm talking about if they called me up and had me just be on it for free, just to be part of them again, I would do it because it's just a big deal, man. So I hate it as well. And I wish I was on those videos game also.
Well, I want you in the video game. I'm sure everyone who's watching and listening wants you in the video games and wants you back on television some way. I mean, they're doing all these different documentaries and things. I'd love to hear you on those. And we live in a world where, look, I mean, Bret Hart came back. Whatever it was, Bret Hart came back. You got Cody Rhodes left and came back. People have.
I mean, what did I do so wrong,
CM
bro?
Punk has come back. Everyone can come back. I think everyone wants to see Buff Bagwell. Video games, maybe in the documentaries or on TV. I don't know if you can have another match or not, but whatever, that'd be cool too. Maybe Hall of Fame. I'll throw it out there. I'd love to see Buff Bagwell in there someday. Instead of this fantasy wax museum, we should be talking about what statue of Buff Bagwell goes in the WWE Hall of Fame. Buff, I want to also say I want to end on just there are good things happening though. Obviously, you said 2 years of sobriety. That is incredible. I want to give you a big congratulations on that. Also, big congratulations for the Cauliflower Alley Club award you recently won.
Thank you.
I got to say, I saw it on Instagram. Loved the white jacket you had on. Got to give you some love for that in those photos. But also, you've got some other wrestling appearances coming up. Well, why don't you tell us a bit about those before we sign off?
Yeah, man. The best way to keep up with me is to go to all my stuff on Twitter and Instagram. All of it is Marcus Buff Bagwell. Go to it, check it out. It shows you all the cities I'm in. But like this weekend, I'm in Iowa. Last weekend, I was in Deltona, Florida. So I'm all over the place. I'm going to be in Vegas for Mania. My email address is marcusbuffbagwell@gmail.com. That's marcusbuffbagwell@gmail.com. That's how I take bookings, and I'm very reachable. I'm very approachable. I'm on Cameo. I've got my new YouTube channel coming out, the official Buff Bagwell YouTube. We just got monetized. So a lot of good things are happening in a lot of areas, man. So check out Buff Bagwell and stay in touch with me, man. And thanks for being the fans out there.
Well, one more time, thank you so much for joining us. This was an incredible talk. And thank you to everyone who is watching and listening. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. That's the Wrestling Chatter. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.